So here in front of me, I have 6 broken GPUs. Maybe you guys remember this one from the video the other day. I'll show them on camera, but there's 6 GPUs. We got Gigabyte, ASUS, another ASUS, and an older Sapphire card. Every one of these GPUs will either post to the Windows desktop and then crash shortly after, or they will black screen right out of the gate and you will get no signal and a bunch of fans going, or even in this one's case, the fans don't even work at all, so I will be replacing that. Due to the age and overall values of these cards, having them professionally fixed is not worth it at all, and fixing one of these could cost as much as buying a newer, faster GPU. Now, there are many ways to repurpose this hardware. Parts boards, coolers, even things like memory pads can be reused. But before all that, I want to give them one last shot with the old, trusty heat gun method.
Very often, the issue that somebody's having when they have no video or something is dead is not an issue that you're going to fix by taking a heat gun to it, by putting it into an oven.
Now, as a former SMT operator, I don't suggest anyone just go out and do this. These cards are low value at this point, so it's really, it doesn't matter as much. This is not an RTX 3080, this is not an RTX 4090 or a 7900 XTX. These are cards that, if I don't try to fix them this way, will probably end up in the trash or at least become parts boards. One other thing I want to let you guys know, mostly I've avoided pretty much every sponsor that's reached out to me, and a company actually reached out to me to test out a microscope. It's not technically a sponsored ad spot or anything, but I will be testing a microscope in this. It's a microscope by a company called TOMLOV. I think some of you guys will like it. I will link it down below and have a discount code, which I will list right here. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that before, getting into this. So I will have a few opinions on this TOMLOV microscope. So starting out with my recent purchase, this is an ASUS Poseidon GTX 780, and the Greek gods wanted to punish me with this one apparently. I purchased this in a build solely to save the card for my own personal collection. Fortunately, it does post, but it crashes almost instantly once it's reached the Windows desktop, which leads me to believe that it's probably the core. Before I go right into the heat gun method, I want to scan the board for any noticeable issues like swollen caps, burnt MOSFETs, resistors, or ICs that might be defective. Normally, I would use my good old eyes or an older microscope like this one here, but this new microscope from TOMLOV, or this TOMLOV kit, is perfect for what I needed to do. Basically, I hate taking my glasses off and doing all the adjustments, so it's pretty nice to have a screen just right there for you. The other cool thing I'm going to do in this video that is a feature of this microscope is jump between the microscope footage and the footage from my camera, so you guys can actually see like a close-up shot back and forth between the PCB and what the microscope is recording. And I just want to say too, one cool thing about this microscope, and it's really weird, it has audio, which, so by the way, this thing's pretty cool. You can zoom way in. It shouldn't, because the audio is so bad, but I found it very useful to line up the audio in my playback when I'm doing like editing, and so I can line it up with the camera footage. That way it's like squared up nice and evenly. So I just thought that was kind of cool that it had a mic built in, even though it sucks and no one should ever use the mic. Just being honest about that, but it's really good for lining up the footage. Alright guys, so starting out with the ASUS Poseidon board, I'm not going to do a crazy job cleaning up all this thermal paste because I'm just going to put more on there as I test it. But yeah, so by the way, this thing is pretty cool. You can zoom way in and way out. Lots of adjustments here. Obviously if you hit it like I just did, it's going to look crazy, but the one thing I just noticed on this board that I didn't notice previously is if you look at these memory chips, there actually seems to be quite a bit of like burning around the PCB, which, I've never looked at boards this close that are this old. Right there specifically, you can see that there's quite a lot of burning on the edge. So I don't know if that's a problem. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just I'm going to look at some other cards and see what they look like, but this is the first time I've actually noticed this kind of burned PCB look. But yeah, so we're going to heat this up. There's nothing else on this board that I can find that seems to be problematic. There is no burnt resistors, caps, ICs, anything on here that looks questionable other than these memory modules. All right, we soaked this for quite a while. This is actually not sitting flat on the metal, by the way. There's a piece of wood underneath this. I don't want to touch it. Got to leave it for like at least 20 minutes to cool down. Now I have these other two ASUS cards. This one is actually already disassembled, and that's on backwards. But yeah, so we're going to take a look at this one under the microscope, and we're also going to disassemble this one, and we're going to do these pretty much back to back. These are both ASUS GTX 1060s. These are the 6GB models, which, believe it or not, people are still looking for quite a bit. These are still like one of the top used cards on the Steam charts. I do want to say too that this little included mat that came from TOMLOV is really nice. It seems to be pretty much heat resistant, if I was to guess. There is a magnetic spot right here. That's kind of cool. And just a nice bonus feature if anyone's gonna end up buying this microscope. So let's start out with GPU number one. I'm not gonna bother cleaning off the die. I will do that at a later time. This is mostly just testing and testing to see if it posts. All right, looks like I found a problem on this board. So right there, as you can see, this has blown up. So that's a good indication. I'm not even gonna bother with this one. There's clearly an issue. You know what's weird is this is the same card, but the layout is actually completely different on this other card. So this must be a revision. They both have a very similar sticker, but this one, if we look on the end down here, has a way different layout. I'm gonna show the regular camera this because you guys won't be able to see this. If we look right here on this PCB, you can see there's a cluster of parts here. And then on this one, there's actually none. So these are actually two different versions of the same card. Doesn't mean too much, just means they probably refined some stuff. Most likely the one with less parts is a newer 1060. As for board number two, now we're gonna look around this one and see if we can find any problems. This is that same area that the other one was burned up. And I don't see anything bad on the bottom side or top side. Actually, technically this is bottom side if you're referring to SMT terminology. That's a IC there. Let's see. Yeah, so far it looks like nothing here is burnt up. And then on the other side, which I'll have to adjust it again for the height difference. Yeah, this looks good. This card has some hope. So let's do the old heat gun method on this one. So I got a little ahead of myself and I really wanted to test this card first, so I'm going to be doing that, and then the rest of the cards will be tested at the end of the video. Okay guys, normally by this time, this card would either fail, like gray screen, or shut down completely. It really depended on the situation. Oh, of course. Windows update every freaking time, bro. Oh yeah. Gaming PC's logging in. Guys, I just want this to work. This is all I want to work, is this right here. And usually this far in, at this point, this card, this 780 Ti right here, it would crash every time. I'm gonna hit the benchmark button. All right, I'm gonna let it get through this whole benchmark, and then I'm gonna come back and do like the freak out thing where I act all like how cool I am on camera. I'll be right back. All right guys, this ran all the way through at 4K. Even though I changed it to 1080p, for whatever reason, haven't kept the 4K settings. We got a pretty low FPS of 31, but this doesn't really matter. What matters is that this just made it through its first benchmark after I got it, and the card would gray screen the second you turned it on, or black screen. And so we've made some serious progress here. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm actually so pumped because now I can test this card and give you guys some, 2024 GTX 780 benchmarks. But yeah, so let's move on to the next few cards. I'm really excited about this card being fixed. I could walk away from this video with just this card fixed, but for the sake of the video, let's go through the other cards that we have. So here are the last 3 cards I have to do the heat gun method to. I actually just noticed this, it's kind of funny. This says ASUS and this says Gigabyte, yet they are both ASUS RX 580s. These are questionable. RX 580s, I really don't want to buy them anymore. I think they have too many problems. I'm still gonna try it and see if I can get at least one of these to work. And then this is the one that actually came from that dumpster PC. And I only want to get this, I want to try to get this to work just because it was just kind of a cool find being in the dumpster. All right guys, up next we have the HD 7950. So we're gonna take this apart real quick. Just so you guys know, you can also use this little remote that comes with this microscope to do all of the zooming in and kind of stuff like that, recording, etc. So it does come with this handy little remote. So there is something funny I just noticed about this card, and it definitely looks like somebody did attempt to fix it because there's actually some pretty wet paste on this card that is over 10 years old. This card is like, I believe came out like around 2012 or maybe 11. So it's up there in the age. Not seeing anything on the PCB, that's alarming. All right, time to flip it over for the backside. Yeah, so there's nothing alarming on here that looks like it's definitely bad. There's a lot of like just corrosion and typical looking PCB of a card this age. All right, while we're waiting for that one to cool down, we're gonna actually take apart these 2 Gigabyte cards. These are both RX 580s. I absolutely hate these cards. The 580s are just, I don't know, I feel like they just die all the time. So I'm not looking forward to them. I am pretty doubtful of getting them to work, but we're gonna try it anyways. So yeah, let's jump to taking them apart. All right, so we're gonna start with the back sides of these RX 580s and just do a quick overlook. As I was editing this section, I looked down and saw that the timeline was getting a bit long, so I'm gonna speed this part up for you guys. There was nothing visibly wrong with any of these boards. They look perfectly fine, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump to heating these up. Seeing something really concerning. Oh. This is my boss, Poseidon, and he wanted to ask me to ask you guys to subscribe. Thanks, Poseidon. Guys, so we're back with the remainder cards left that we have not tested so far. Just to go over what worked, we had the Poseidon, which I put back on my wall. Very happy about that. We had both of these ASUS 1060s, unfortunately do not work, so no good there. And now we have these 3 left to test. I thought I'd also mention this too. I'm not using a newer bench. I'm using an older test bench because cards like this HD 7950 won't post on certain hardware. So we're gonna go ahead and test this one now and see if we can get this to post. Just to let you guys know, I'm gonna be using this screen to have this one post. Unfortunately, I do not have DisplayPort Mini, and nor does this. So got a little blue light. Nice. CPU fan error. I didn't realize this, but this other fan here has stopped working. So we're hitting 70C, which is surprising that it's staying, you know, within a decent temperature, but it's definitely something that would need to be replaced. And this benchmark is almost at the end, so I know it will finish. So this is a completely working card. Other than that, I'm not gonna bother replacing the fan just because this is not something I would put in anyone's system. It's just too old at this point, but it just goes to show you that it does work using the heat gun method. And that is the score of the 7950. All right, we're about to test the 1066 gigabyte, but before I do that, I just want to mention that I'm not using the coolers. I'm actually missing one of the cables that connects the coolers together. This one has both the fans, one bad one, one good one, and these do not work together without a special cable. So we're gonna do it just like this for now, and yeah, let's see if it will post. Got the old screwdriver. Oh, shush. Shush you. Not looking too good for the 1060. Up next is the RX 580 with the gigabyte stickers here. This is the 4 gigabyte. So we're gonna power it on. And no fans spinning, that's already a bad sign. So we already know we're gonna have to replace fans if it actually boots, and we just saw a pretty bad screen. Yep. So unfortunately, this one, although it wasn't posting initially, it is posting now. It's just doing this crazy artifacting, which means give up on this. And finally, for the last card, this is the Gigabyte ASUS with the ASUS stickers, and this is the 8 gigabyte model. And go ahead and see if it posts. HDMI's in. I'm gonna be using this monitor here. Definitely not a good sign so far. I'm actually gonna pull this CMOS battery out, and if you guys are doing stuff like this, it's good every once in a while to just reset your system. I'm gonna give this one more shot and try the other monitor using the display port, and if I can get it to work, that would be cool. Well, let's give it one more shot. Second test. Actually sounds a little bit quieter. I hooked it up to this screen here. This is the ASUS 4K instead of that one, and I'm using DisplayPort instead of the HDMI. All right, HDMI maybe isn't working anymore. This ASUS board has a permanent fan error that you cannot get rid of in the BIOS, so I have to constantly do this. So just for the heck of it, I actually hooked up the HDMI, and now both screens are actually working. So I'm gonna run this through Heaven just to see if it will at least do one complete benchmark, and I'll give you guys the results. All right guys, here is the final score of the RX 580 that works. Pardon this Heaven noise. Yeah, so pretty happy about that. One thing that's a little bit funky with this card is the RGB is kind of strange. It changes colors and then it'll turn off and like flicker. So I'm gonna download the Fusion app to see if I can like fix it to get it to be just a solid color. It was like white for a minute and then now it's doing rainbow again. But yeah, so let's go over how many cards we got done and talk about the whole experience. So first of all, I got one of the cards running back there still. It's still going. That's the RX 580 ASUS 8 gigabyte model. The 4 gigabyte model failed. It was artifacting. Most likely, even though this didn't post when I first initially tested it a long time ago, most likely heating it up did get it to work, but it was already bad and it was artifacting, so we're just gonna give up on that one. We had the two 1060s. This one I didn't even bother putting back because it had a burnt spot that we found using that microscope, so that was a huge plus having that. I actually wouldn't have seen it unless I really dove in, and it's that little spot right there that's all burnt up. Won't really be able to see it on the Sony camera. Then we have this other one, which I attempted to fix, but ultimately ended up testing it like this, and this card also did not work. So we're 0 for 3 at this point, except for that one RX 580. And then we have the last cards, or actually, this is out of order, but this card worked, which this is the sole purpose of making this video. I wanted to save this card. It's one of my all-time favorites, so I'm very happy about that. And then the dumpster PC. If you guys haven't checked that video out, I'll link it down below. I found a PC in a dumpster, and it had this 7950, and this card would not post at all in that system, and we ended up replacing it to get the dumpster PC working. Heated this one up for a bit of time, and let it cool down, and it posts, and the benchmark passed. So not something I'm going to put in a customer machine. It does have one bad fan, but what are you going to do? For anyone looking to purchase this TOMLOV microscope, this is actually the one that they sent over to me, and a few other like specs. I didn't really go over the specs of this, but it does come with a 1080p like really clear panel that's complete. I believe it's an IPS display too. You can see the viewing angles are really good on it. Everything about it's pretty good. It comes with a 64 gigabyte SD card too, which is kind of great. And yeah, so this is the one that I have. There are many of them. If you go to the TOMLOV page here on Amazon, they got quite a few different versions. So if you guys are really interested in that, all the information will be in the description down below. And if you stayed this far, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And that's going to be the end of this video. I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.